Hi, good evening, everybody. I hope everybody's enjoying and having a lot of fun, excitement, and jubilations. Since it's Lohri, a popular festival in North India, and here in Punjab, it's being celebrated with full pomp and show. I happened to read something about my childhood, though not related to Lodi, but yes, since Lodi falls in winters, and my childhood through winters had been one of the exciting journeys I ever had. And today, when I am in my, uh, you know, uh, prime of my, you know, uh, adulthood, so when I look back and wonder how our childhood was like, a lot of stories used to be there, and I was recently embarking on one of the stories from my childhood days that my grandmother used to narrate around the time it was night, and she would primarily narrate a lot of stories, but one particular about those ghostly uh, characteristics of unknown species, uh, whose in the dark of the night we will hear some chirping or sounds or something, and would try to uh, think that it might be the same ghost that our grandmother was narrating us the other day. So there were names like Rantas, Dern, Tasrubdar, Raha Chok, Brahm Chok, Gar Devta, and many other things. So, when I primarily dig back into what these different ghostly characters were like, I couldn't fetch anything much because now I am out of Kashmir, and digging back is only through internet most of the time. And when happen to connect with different vlogs or with travelers' experience, I try to uh, comprehend whether there was anything specifically what I have heard about, or it was just a mythical thought or creature or a kind of narration that would primarily keep the children at bay from making any noise, especially in the winters, and make them sleep early, rather than how it is these days that children are awake till midnights or through the nights. So when we talk about Tasrubdar was a creature believed to be staying closer to the springs, and they were supposed to be like some seraphs or elves who would primarily would not like the humans to disturb their privacy or habitats. It was generally believed that if somebody would walk by those springs and dilute the sanctity of those springs, then these tasrubdars would get very angry on such human beings. And as the word tasrubdar um, you know means, tasrup is more related to hallucination, so they will create such kind of a hallucination that the human being will fall prey to that hallucination and will continue to remain in the very hallucination for a long lasting time. Another such species or character or whatever was Rantas. So Rantas was believed to be one like the witch who was more interested in having a or building a relationship with a mortal human, and would primarily take him to his sorry, rather her uh, own place deep in the jungles. And there was a belief that some of them would uh, get married to this creature, and they will have ample of children. And at some other point in the valley, it was believed that these humans were fed differently, and over a period of time they were consumed or eaten by Rantis itself. So there was a theory behind Rantis carrying a comb in her hair. It was a golden comb, and she had a voice which was very attractive and would infatuate any man if she called his name. Similarly, there was something like Dern also, who also had certain characteristic features like the Chudales that we primarily know in the larger Hindi heartland in rest of the India. So these characters were also prominent in many stories that would be narrated from one generation to another generation. There used to be a concept of Gardevta. Some used to call it Pasikdars, other used to call them Dayut or likewise. So Dayut was primarily more, common with the families that were from the Hindu religion, and Pasikdar was something related to those families that came from the Muslim pantheon. So the crux of the story was that these were some spirits who would be resting in your houses, and they will ensure that your house is guarded and properly protected. And like in Hindus, specifically Kashmiri Pandits, it used to be that during the month of winters, there used to be a festival which is called Gardabat, which primarily means serving cooked fish and rice, and serving it to the deity or the specific dayut or Gardeta, who primarily takes it as a worshipping meal and primarily guards that particular household. And if somebody else enters the house and tries to break the sanctity of the house, then he or she will be differently treated by this Gardevta or Dayut, and the person will always be afraid of visiting or entering that house again. Similarly, there is a belief about Rahachok or Brahm Chok. Some people, some narration is that Brahm Chok or Rahachok was something more to do with a scary wolf-like creature who roamed Kashmir Valley, and especially would come from the marshlands. And he was something who would be having eyes on the top of the head, unlike how the humans have the eyes. So it was something like the eyes would not be able to you know uh, make out if a human being is standing in front of the uh, Rahachok or Brahmram Chok. But if the person is approaching Brahmram Chok from a distance, then it can see it very well, and that those eyes were very flashy red, and it would look like more of some flame emerging out of the eyes, and they would sometimes destroy the houses if the houses came in between their path. And there is another scientific evidence or aspect of that these Rahachoks and Brahmram chokes were mostly the phosphorus coming out of the bones that were buried in different graves. And over a period of time, when these graves were mutilated, or those bones were scattered around by different wild animals or by scavengers. So the phosphorus, the bones would decay, and out of that phosphorus may come out. And since these bones would be on the left over the graves as such, from a distance they would appear with like flashy eyes on the head of something like so that's a different belief altogether. But yes, there are a lot of people who keep saying that they or their parents or their grandparents have visually seen Brahm Chok or Raha Chok and all those things. So the legend goes like that. So whenever I talk about these things, or when I learn or pick up new word or new thought about how our childhood days were, and eventually with those childhood days all these narrations come into my mind about all these ghostly characters that were part of the stories that our grandparents would narrate to us. uh, so fun, so wonderful time it was then. But yes, whether these people, these creatures existed or not, can't say anything about. There's one more character I was recently talking in one of my videos in Kashmiri. It's called Yach. So a lot of people believe that this Yach character was something like a cat who would be having a cap-like thing on its head, and if that cap was taken by the person who had seen that character, that Yash character, and he would eventually become very rich. So again, this is pretty disturbing sometimes when I think about whether Yash was really a cat-like thing. Could be in old times there could be some creature which could have existed in Kashmir, especially during the winter time when it was peak snowy all across. But at the same time, I think uh, whenever I think about Yach as a character, I think there could be people who could have been living in the upper or the higher areas of Pir Panchal in Kashmir, uh, who could be possibly the ancient lost tribes of Israel, the Jews who could have primarily come to Kashmir from the old Sikh route and settled down in higher reaches, because maybe that point in time the old Brahmins or Buddhists would not allow these people to mix with the larger society which existed in the valley. And since Jews also wear a small cap on their head when they go for prayers and everything, and that cap has a certain value to them from their religious perspective. So I have believed that Yach would not have been a four-legged animal, but rather they would be humans only. And because there has been evidence in Kashmir that at multiple places there have been the names of the villages which start with, say, like Yachpora. So Yachpora is a place in Kashmir which primarily uh, has a derivative from the settlements of those Yach community or something, who would have dwelled in that village, and eventually that place became known as Yachpora. Had it been a place wherein only some cat like or four-legged animals would have been there, so it would not have got the name of Yachpora. So that's my belief. But overall, just wanted to pass on the information to you how I felt it, since it's the occasion of Lodi over here, and I could synchronize it with the winters and my childhood and the creatures around it that comes into those fairy tales or folklores. That's it for the time. Thank you very much.